Well, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today I'm going to show you how I take this, a film negative, and turn it into this, a digital positive. Now, ideally, I would be printing these negatives with a photo enlarger in a darkroom, but I don't have a darkroom. I don't have access to a darkroom. And so the only thing I can really do is take these negatives and turn them into positives, into digital files, and then convert those. I use several different tools. I mostly use Lightroom Classic by Adobe, and then I do Photoshop. I have a plugin for Lightroom that I'm going to show you as well. So I'm just going to show you the workflow of once I have scanned in my negatives onto my computer, the process I use to convert those to positives and then to manipulate those, edit those down, and basically try to recreate what I could make in a darkroom with a photo enlarger. I'm not trying to do anything crazy with these. I want them to be as, I guess, pure as they could possibly be. I'll maybe do a little bit of dust removal and things like that. But basically, I want a nice baseline, good-looking positive from these negatives. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So enjoy. Okay, gang, here's the workflow for taking scanned negatives, and I'm not going to show you the whole process of how I scan the negatives. Maybe we'll do an episode on that eventually as well. But if I have scanned all the negatives, I do a workflow kind of like this, where I have a folder that has the date of the roll, and inside that, I will have Lightroom exports, negatives, positive TIFFs. So when I have scanned the negatives, I scan them in as raw files. So this is all 36 exposures from this roll. I also have an alternate version that's all in JPEG. So I save both of those. And then I've got all of these raw files. Now I'm not going to do all of these, obviously, so I've just picked some out of here and I have placed them in this folder for the purposes of this video. But imagine that as I'm importing these into Lightroom, so I'm using Adobe Lightroom, imagine that I'm doing all 36 of these, but I'm not going to show you doing all 36 of these because it takes a while. So if we go to Lightroom, we open her up, we go to Library, and if I take my negative conversion folder, I'm going to throw these in here as if this is an entire roll of 36 exposures. So they get imported into Lightroom. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are going to import these. Now we've got them here as negatives. We're going to go to Develop. And now we can look at our negatives. So we've got a little horsey guy. Actually, I think this is a mule. We've got someone riding a horse. This was pretty difficult lighting, very dark in this kind of sheltered area. Action, I had to have kind of a slow shutter speed to get enough of an exposure, but I also was trying to capture action. Here, freezing action, bright outdoors. Here was under shade, so kind of a slower shutter speed, but not too difficult. Here, bright outdoor. Here, bright outdoor. So what do I do to each of these once I have them here as negatives? Well, I'll go to Edit, select all. Oops, damn it. Select all. And then I hit Control N. And this brings up Negative Lab Pro version 3.0.2. Now I use Negative Lab Pro. If I didn't use Negative Lab Pro, let's say I just grabbed one of these, I could just reverse the curves here, like so, and you kind of have a positive, and you might adjust this a little bit to make sure it's not overexposed. And I would also go black and white here. Adobe Monochrome. I think I just usually would do black and white like this. Yeah. So there you go. That could be your positive, and then you could just work with that if you want. That works, but I actually like going with, we're just undoing all this. I like doing select all. I know there's a keyboard shortcut for that. I just can't remember what it is. And I like using Negative Lab Pro. You don't necessarily need it, but it helps. So what you can do, you've got your convert dialog. So if you have 36 files, you want to do an entire roll just to see what you've got. I have color model, black and white, pre-saturation, 3 default. I do a border buffer of 10%, so you'll notice that when I was scanning these, you're going to have extraneous stuff that's not supposed to be in the frame, so this kind of just sucks it in, so you're not seeing all that. And I convert 6 negatives, and you'll just get a nice baseline positive, and one that isn't being manipulated too much. So it's converting now. And there you go. And then I have this profile here that I use with Negative Lab Pro. So I have black and white basic. There are all sorts of different things you can use here. And I don't do anything with exposure, don't do anything with brightness. I add a little bit of contrast, just 6 points here you can see. Add a little bit in the darks, just 5. I'm trying to do just very little at all. I do -5 for black clip, don't do anything with white clip. White balance, I add just a little bit of warmth. 4 points of warmth here, and that's just because you could imagine printing these on a kind of paper where you get a little bit more of a warm look. If I take this out, you can see it's very, very little. Just to touch. So when I apply this, this will apply this to all the negatives that I've just converted. And it doesn't do much, but it just does just a touch. So then let's say I've got all these 36 negatives, and I'm going to go through them all now and see which ones I actually want to bother with. But before I do that, I will convert all of these. So let me get to my folder here. So let's assume that I have a new folder that I call Positive TIFFs, which is what I would do. And once I take these negatives and I've got them all converted, or I've changed them all to positives, I will select all again, which I think I already got. I'll do export, and I go here. I have a negative conversion TIFF, where basically it's just kind of a basic TIFF that I'm using. I'm not going to rename these, but I normally would, just for my file organization and everything. And I'm going to choose a folder here. Okay, so we got negative conversion, positive TIFFs. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to export these all out as positives now. So in our folder here, we have all of these as positives. So then I would go back here, go to my library, take all these, throw them in here. So now we're going to import all of these. Now we can work with these in Lightroom. So we've got all our positives, and on a roll of 36, obviously I'm not going to bother going any further with all of those. I'm just going to try to pick out ones that I actually like. So if we go to develop here, I like this one. I think I want to try to do something with this. This one, I think I want to try to do something with this. This one, I think I will. This one, maybe, yeah. This one, I think no. I think I'm not going to do anything with this one. So for now, I'm going to actually just hit backspace, and I will remove from Lightroom. I'm not getting rid of the file. I'm just removing it from Lightroom. And then this one, I do think I want to do something with. I think I'm only going to do 3 for the purposes of this video, so I think we'll take this one out as well, even though I like this one. We'll remove that from Lightroom. And yeah, let's do horsey or mule. We'll do that one because that's kind of difficult lighting situation. Yeah, let's do those 3. So we're going to get rid of this one for now. Okay, so we have these 3 files now. These are in TIFF form, and they are positives where pretty much nothing has been done to them. So what do I do from this stage? Let's go to the first one. First of all, we're going to crop this. We'll take out the parts of the frame that shouldn't be in the frame. So I'm just going to change it. If it wasn't completely straight when I scanned it in, I'll try to get it right to where the borders should be. I'm not trying to crop anything right now. For looks, I'm just cropping to make the frame. And you'll see I'm losing something here. Let me go back a little bit. I can go a little further. Okay, so that's our crop just to work with it. We have it cropped. I'm going to do that to all three. Let's get it so we're straight-ish. And I'm not trying to straighten out any lines in the picture. I'm trying to straighten it out to the frame that I actually took, so I know what I'm working with. Just a tiny bit there. And yeah, and the way when I do the camera scans like this, I am going to lose a little bit of the frame. That's just the way it is. Okay, there's that one. And then this one, I will straighten to how I had it initially. Get rid of these borders. That's pretty good. Maybe just take a little bit out of there. Now, I might do some more cropping later with this. Might not. I try not to do too much cropping, but this is just so we can work with this file. So, it's pretty good positive already. We have fairly good contrast and everything, but I have set up a little file here, or a little profile called Tri-X Film Final. So these are in your user presets, and I'm going to show you what this does. It's not much. If I click this, it adds plus 15 contrast, so not much. I'll take that off, and you can see not a whole lot, just 15. I have negative 10 on highlights. I have plus 10 on whites. I have plus 15 on dehaze. If I take that out, you can see there's just kind of a little more bloom on there. So these are just things that I've sort of figured out for myself what I want to do. And that's pretty much it. I don't do anything else to it in this profile, but I will alter things maybe slightly when I go through and kind of do things to taste. So here I'm going to throw that profile on there as well. You can see this is still too dark. Here I'm going to throw this profile on there. Doesn't really alter it that much at all. If I hit this, you'll see there's very little difference there, just maybe slightly more contrast. So here, this exposure is pretty good. I'm looking at the curve or the histogram here, and we have maybe a little bit here I think is peaking the highlights. If we take more of those highlights out, it's not going to make that much difference. I might take it down to negative 30, and everything I'm trying to do when I'm editing these negatives are things that I could do when actually printing in a darkroom. Basically, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do anything else that I couldn't do in that sort of situation. So do I want to crop this anymore? I don't think so. I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I'm really happy even just with the exposure and everything. I could alter the exposure a little bit if I wanted, but I don't really think I want to. If anything, maybe I'd take a tiny bit out. But I'm pretty much okay where it is. If we go back to 0, that looks pretty good. So I got a pretty good exposure on this to begin with. Do I want to do anything with shadows? No, I don't think so. Maybe take a little bit out. Nah, doesn't really make much difference. I think I'm pretty happy with this already. I'm trying not to alter these negatives too much. I just want them to look how they would look if I were trying to print this myself. I may try to do something with dodging if I were printing this to get some of this fixed. It looks like this is a little bit overexposed here, just the highlights. But I don't know. It's not that big a deal to me. The main subject is here, and I like how that looks. I'm pretty happy with that. Now this one, we have more work to do. So obviously the exposure is a little low. This is a very dark area, and I wanted to try to freeze the action a little bit. So you'll see if you try to add exposure to this, you can get some. There's quite a bit of latitude with the TIFF, and that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with where that is now. If I take down some of the highlights just to take some of the bloom off of these lights, so imagine in this case, I'd be burning these in a little bit, maybe go down to negative 40. Shadows, I could bump up a little bit to get more detail if I wanted. I don't know that I would necessarily want to do that. I might leave it right around there. We could take the blacks up a bit, but I'm pretty happy with negative 5, I think, where we had it. Now, should I add more exposure? No, because then you start getting this fringing around the outer edge of the frame that I don't love. If I were right around 1.25, I think that's where I like it. We could even take a little more out of the shadows, but nah, I think this is pretty good. I think I might crop this a little bit. I might want to go in. There's a lot of the ceiling. I might want to take out a little bit more of that ceiling. And I like the crowd, and I like the kind of direction of travel for the horse being on the left-hand side, and the horse is going this way, and you can see the path that the horse is going to be taking. And that might be about how I would crop that if I were cropping it. And I think that looks pretty good right there. Again, trying not to do too much to this. So here you can see that the highlights may have been blown out a little bit in the sky, but probably not because it was a completely clear day. But if we take some of the highlights out, you can see it's not going to really make any difference that much. So I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe we'd put it at -30. The exposure, if anything, it's about right. I'd probably keep it right about where it is. We could take some of the shadows out a little bit, but what I think I would do with this is I like this figure right here. I might crop this a little bit. Maybe take out some of that sky. Where would I want this? I kind of want to focus on this girl here. And I like this somewhere around there. Yeah, I don't know. Not my favorite, but whatever. Okay, so let's say I were printing this and I wanted to put more emphasis on her. So I could actually burn her in a little bit. So if I go here, I could do a mask. And this is really cool. So you can do subject, you can do sky, you can do background. It's saying it's not finding any people, which is kind of strange. There are definitely, obviously, people here, but you could just use a brush. And if you wanted to, you could take her. Now imagine you're doing this with burning, or not burning, dodging. So I don't even know, well, I don't even know if I would do her whole body, but let's say I do. I'm basically just making a mask, and I want to emphasize this person, which is something you can do when you're printing a photograph. So we have her there. Now, if I wish, I could up her exposure slightly, maybe. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe highlight her, not highlights, maybe take the shadows up slightly on her so you can see her a little bit better. Now let's see what happens if we go back here. I think I like that. So you can do things like that, dodging and burning individual people, individual parts. You could do that with the sky to get more detail in the sky if there were any clouds in the sky. So now I've got 3 frames that I think are converted fairly well. I like how it's looking. I might even take some of the contrast out of this. You can do that with filters and things when you're printing. So now I'm going to export all 3 of these. Now, if I go to my folder, I would have a file. So I have my positive TIFFs. I would have a folder that said Lightroom exports. And again, we're kind of weeding down frames as we go here. So I'm not going to do this process to all 36 exposures, and I'll have picked out the ones I like when I do this. We select all, we export, and we have a profile that I've made here for just normal JPEGs. Hello. Then we're going to choose Lightroom exports. We'll choose that. We will export. We go here, now we have our Lightroom exports. We have the 3 frames that I liked. So now we're done with Lightroom. So Lightroom can go away. Now imagine I had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 frames out of the 36 that I liked. I'm going to do a new one, new folder that I just call Keepers. Oops, I misspelled Keepers because I have big fat fingers. There we go. So now we'll group this by name. So then I'm going to open up all of these in Photoshop. And I'm going to go through them and do any fine editing I need to do. And that's mostly just taking out any dust. And it's a pain in the butt. But let's see. We've got a little dust here. I can see some here, maybe here. You can't really see it unless you really zoom in, but I'm going to show you something. There's a filter, and it is, I think here, dust and scratches. Now look what happens if I try to use this filter. It really takes out a lot of the highlights. If we take away the preview, let's put this over here. See how it really takes away a lot of the detail and the highlights? It doesn't work for me, and I've tried messing around with the radius and the threshold, and I just can never find a setting that actually works that I'm happy with. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to cancel this. What I end up doing, zooming in a lot. You can see the grain here. I'm just going to use the spot healing brush tool. And all I'm going to do is go around. I'm going to make the tool a little smaller. I think that's dust. Now, obviously, I blow my negatives off and everything before I scan them. I can't tell if that's dust or not. I think it might be. But you're still gonna end up with a little bit of dust on your frames. So I just go through. I don't think any of that's dust. Now look at this. I've got a little scratch here. That's annoying, but you can fix that fairly easily. By dragging over. Just like so. And magically, it's gone. Let's see. Yeah, there's a little bit more scratching here. It looks like I got these. This is from several months ago when I was having an issue with some scratch frames occasionally. I would take more time with this, obviously, but that's pretty good. There's a little piece of dust right there. I'm going to go down. This is dust. Looks like to me. And I don't go too crazy with it. I don't need to take out every tiny little piece of dust, but anything that's really obvious, I will get rid of. And there we go. That's pretty much good for this one. We'll fit that on screen. And then I will export this to the Keeper folder. So this is one that I truly like. I have done all the editing, converting, gotten rid of the dust and scratches. If I go through these and I'm weeding this down even more, like I might come to one and say, maybe I don't actually want this one, then I won't save this in the Keeper file. I won't go through the process of dedusting it if I don't think I'm going to end up actually using it. But we'll take a look at this one. I'm not seeing too much here. Maybe a little bit of dust right there. Right there. It does a really good job of maintaining the look of the grain and everything. If you had a giant blob that you had to try to take out, that might be a problem. But just doing these tiny little spots are perfectly acceptable for, sharing these pictures, using these. Ideally, if you were going to make a big enlargement of this, you would do it photographically with an enlarger and do it on photo paper. But just for kind of digital distribution, this is more than good enough. This is some dust. Let me get my tool a little smaller. There we go. I think that's dust. Usually the dust is completely white, and that's how you know it's dust, like this. And here, and here. And these frames aren't too bad. There's some, no matter how much I blow or wipe or brush, I end up getting some frames with just a ton of dust, and it's a huge pain in the ass to clean it off. So these are just little specks of dust. Not too bad. And there you go. That's pretty much good. Fit that on screen. That one's done. And then this one, obviously you can see some in the sky here. So we're going to zoom in on this a little bit. So I would just go through and clean up any little bit of dust, any issues that we had in the frame. And I'm not going to do it all to this one because I don't need to. I've already shown you the process. Oh, well, there's one right here. I do want to get this one. It's very obvious. So there you go. That's basically what you're doing when you are converting, or this is what I'm doing when I am converting my negatives into digital positives. Now, again, like I've said, ideally I would be printing these in a darkroom, but I don't have access to a darkroom, and so I'm using my digital darkroom to make these into nice looking positives and trying to really keep the character of the original photograph and trying to make something that I could do if I were printing this in a darkroom. I think that looks good. So there you go, gang. That is my process. So there you go, gang. That's how I turn my physical black and white negatives, 35 millimeters, into digital positives. If you are interested in seeing the process whereby I scan these into my computer, I would be happy to do a video on that as well. Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been a good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.